My name is Sean Sealer. I've been a woodworker now for 2 years. Though I've been an armchair woodworker all my life. I remember growing up helping my father holding flashlights and doing things around the house, which really comes in handy now that I am a homeowner. Some of my fondest memories as a kid was watching the New Yankee Workshop with my dad every Saturday morning. It was just something on that we would watch together. I kind of started the bug. Then I did some woodworking in Scouts. I'm an Eagle Scout. As well as I did some woodworking in shop class in 6th and 7th grade. Which I learned a lot there. I mean, we only had about 4 months, so we didn't really do too much as far as complex projects or anything. Maybe it's time to give back. From what I've learned a little bit from my dad, but I'd say the majority of the woodworking stuff I've learned was from things like Norm on, the New Yankee Workshop, podcasts, online TV shows, books, magazines. So I decided to start a podcast and see what it's like to use these things as your teacher instead of going off as an apprenticeship, using the internet as your apprenticeship. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not an expert, and I'm not claiming to be an expert. I'm the farthest thing from an expert. I'm just learning. Hopefully, like some of the rest of you, and that you can maybe learn from what I screw up, learn from my mistakes. Okay? That's my goal. Now, my day job is I do video and audio production, so the podcasts aren't going to be super glossy, and they're not, there's not going to be a whole hell of a lot of eye candy to them. Just for the fact that woodworking is what I do to relax me from work, and work is audio and video production, so adding a podcast in it kind of makes this like work. So it's not going to be super. I'm going to try not to make it look like crap, but it's not going to, don't expect big fanfare. Okay, this is my shop. It's located in a 1-car garage in a series of 4 townhomes in northern Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. I live in Amish country, which is great. There's still a lot of amazing woodworking going on around this area, and a lot of antiques. You can not only find antique tools, but antique furniture and tons of shops. We're kind of in the antique district here, so it's really nice to kind of be in this area and doing woodworking. My shop was really big when I first started. At least it seemed that way. I had plenty of room because I had no tools. I basically had a couple series of battery operated hand tools. Like a battery circ saw and all a bunch of little cordless drill that I had with my DeWalt set, a table saw, and I used this board here as my workbench on 2 metal sawhorses that I got from one of the big box stores, and that served as my workbench for a while. In fact, that's the workbench that I built my workbench on. So it did its job, and it didn't really have to be much. It was enough to get started. And this kind of workbench is better than no workbench. As my shop grew, you really kind of have to try to fit things in. And that's when you really need to start planning, because you got a lot of stuff to get into a small shop like this. And not only do you have to fit it in, it needs to be in a way that's kind of organized and kind of makes sense for your uses. You don't have a lot of floor space, so whatever can come up off the floor kind of has to do that. So I'll kind of show you where I'm at now in the shop. The shop's not done, of course. Shop's never done. But I'll try to also show you what I originally used before I built what I'm currently using. So let's take a look at my shop. This is my clamp rack. I didn't always have it. Before I built it, I used to keep the clamps under the workbench on the shelf. Before that, I kept them on the floor, pretty much in a pile in the corner. They work good here because I can't really put anything too deep because of the door to the house. So by having them, I can still walk through that door and not have anything protrude too far. They're basically standard rack plans. You can find plans for hang-in racks like this all over the internet. Just kind of customize them to my use. There's definitely room for some improvement, and I'll change it. Though I think the location is going to stay here just because of the fact that I can hang on there and not worry about the door. Next to my clamp rack is my drill press. It is a Shopfox benchtop drill press. I built a cabinet underneath it out of utility grade plywood and melamine. And it's just, it raises the drill press to a good level for me. I'm kind of short, I'm 5'6". So this gives me plenty of storage below for drill bits and all that kind of stuff. I also made a comparison chart. Wood Magazine gave this out. I made a cheap little crappy frame for it just to keep some of the dust off of it. But it's really nice to have that reference there right on the wall. I still need to build a good woodworking table for the drill press with a nice fence on it. So I'll do that in a future podcast. This is my bandsaw. It's a GO55 Grizzly. This is probably my pride of my shop. I quit smoking about 2 years ago. I took all the money that I originally spent on cigarettes, set it aside, and was able to buy myself something nice. This is it. So every time I look at it, it reminds me of how much money I was wasting on cigarettes, and now I got a nice bandsaw for it. It's a good size. It's 14-inch. There are riser blocks and stuff for it. I haven't bought that. It needs a good tune-up, and I'll do that soon. For the amount of money I spent on it, I am super pleased. Okay, here's my wood storage rack. It's pretty pathetic. I don't really have a whole lot of wood. I tend to buy my wood as I need it, just because I don't have a lot of money to put out for various woods. So, I mean, I do have some stuff. I have some scrap wood that I got at the cutoff bin. The cutoff bin's a great place to find some wood for smaller projects and stuff when you don't have a lot of money, because you basically could get the cutoffs real cheap. This is my router table / table saw work center. I built it using the plans from Wood Magazine. I altered them a little bit and used cheaper material. They had us using our Baltic birch, I think it was, which is a little too expensive for me in shop furniture. I wish I kind of went with maybe a birch ply or something. Wood that I used is really hard to work with. It's utility grade plywood, but once I was able to wrangle it together, it worked out pretty good. The drawers are just stuck in there. I couldn't really put the hardware because everything is just kind of all over the place. But it works pretty good, and it gives me additional support for the table saw to the right of the blade, which is really good for me, as well as now a router station. What I used before this router station was just a board with a fence on it. I mean, it was so simple, but it worked great. It got the job done, and I built a lot of my early projects with it. But as I was building this station, I was able to kind of move up. But this smaller router table that I originally started using worked so well I couldn't throw it out. I kept it. If I ever have to go anywhere and do any routing, it's perfect. It does a really good job. There's a shelf next to the table saw that I hang my other blade, a zero clearance insert, a stop block, various little doodads that I use for making thin strips and stuff on the shelf, some clamps to clamp down a stop block, and my push blocks. All right there next to the saw. Works out really well.